that we can glean, that I as a student could glean from the great life. You all know that the book The 100 by Michael Hart mentions Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as the first person who has affected the most the human beings of the present era. So when we study that great life, I could deduce three things that are the main contributions, and I think on all those three things, all religions of the contemporary times can agree and work together. The first thing is, I mean, he was 25 years old when he got married. He married Khadija radhiyallahu anha, and then for the next 15 years also, he was doing the regular life chores and considered by everybody as Sadiq and Amin. He's truthful and he is trustworthy. And then when he reached the age of 40, and we are talking about the Qamari or the lunar year, he received the first revelation, IQRA bismi rabbika allazi khalaq. And from that time to the next 13 years, he did the first great contribution. He gave the simplest of the metaphysical beliefs that any of the contemporary religions have. We talk about more time-honored religions of Hinduism and Shintoism, and then 5 more religions started about 2,500 years ago: Confucianism and Taoism in China, Buddhism and Jainism in India, and Zoroastrianism in Iran, and then Christianity 2,000 years ago, and then Islam. The simplest and rational beliefs, rational, I am scared to use that word, because Immanuel Kant had said that the ultimate reality will always stay beyond the comprehension of human mind, his famous book, Critique of Pure Reason. But at least we can say that these three beliefs, Tawheed, Risala and Akhirah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, doesn't need to be identified in the form of any natural phenomenon or any statues or anything. He is everywhere and so on. And then he conveyed his will to the human being that he selected from Adam alayhi salam through the last prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then this life is not the end of existence. There is another life, and there will be a doomsday and a day of judgment, after which we will be rewarded or punished for our deeds in this world. Those three basic beliefs were the cornerstone of building character of those initial Muslims of his time. 13 years he spent, and the number grew, and they were subjected to the greatest torture and so on and so forth, and murder and whatnot, and twice they migrated to Ethiopia also. But the organization of human beings as a social force, that Professor Irfan has said moral force, was the outcome of those 13 years. And I think that gives us the greatest lesson, that we cannot live like animals, just some nutrition or some food and some sleep and some procreation activities. We are human beings, and we should be living in the form that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built for us, for some higher goals, and the greatest higher goal is to promote the good and to curb and forbid the evil. And Quran Majid says that the good and the evil is inspired. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. As you can see, that those aqaid, those beliefs became the cornerstone of the best characteristics, moral characteristics of human beings of his time. So they became, under his leadership, a great social force and a great moral force. And so it is very necessary, and I think it is shared by all religious communities and all ethnic communities, that those who are not content with living just for those three things, some nutrition and some sleep and some procreational activities, but they want to do something else, they have to have a group of human beings. IQRA Foundation also required some group of human beings. East University also required some human beings. And the one who leads has to follow the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that number one, his own character was beyond a shadow of any suspicion, and and anyone who saw him and became Muslim never decreased his respect and his admiration for the leader. So that is one lesson that we can learn from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is common to all religions and all religious groups who do moral activities and they develop projects for the good of human beings. They have to practice the same model. The second great contribution was the establishment of the state of Medina, which also gives us another great lesson, which is now accepted the world over. Because when at the time of Hajj, people came from Medina and saw him and they said, look, we have heard strange things that you are a magician or something, and we want you, because people are very harsh to you, so we want you to come there. And you know that those 3 years of Shaykh Abi Talib and the great misery and torture that was afflicted to his family members, and at that time his grandfather and his wife passed away and so on. But somehow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was patient to say, no, I will not just go now with you. You go back and discuss some more and then come next year. I mean, we just did not, as soon as the visa was got, the first flight we took from Karachi to New York or something. He said, no, you go back. Example in history, if Constantine had not become Christian in 327 AD and the papacy of Rome had not been established, probably Christianity would not have spread in such numbers. If you look at other religions, this did not happen. So my submission is that the political institutions in support of that moral force and social force are important. And I do not want to go into the establishment of Pakistan and so on and so forth, but I must say that freedom and ability to organize our lives according to our own will, which is called self-determination, is the most important thing. Pakistan was created because the people living in those areas decided to split from one India. So it was the exercise of self-determination. And now even UN Charter has accepted that. Because of time, I will not go into the detail of what that second contribution did, not just to Muslims, but to the entire humanity. All I consider those empires also the Umayyad period from 661, but of course the rightly guided caliphs from 622. Now some people say that Hijrah was completed on 24th of September 622, and in January 661 Sayyidina Ali was martyred. So that 28 and a half years time was the rightly guided time of Khilafah. But then the Umayyad period from 661 AD to 750, and the Abbasid period, and then the last empires, the Safavids of Iran and Mughals of India and Ottomans of Turkey and Europe and Middle East. Whatever contribution Muslims have made to civilization, and now the resurgence of Muslims that John Esposito particularly talks about. He said in the introduction of the 4-volume Oxford Encyclopedia of the Modern Islamic World that when Arab-Israeli war happened in 1967, I think all of us, probably all of us were already born at that time. Western academicians thought that Muslims, Islam as a faith is gone. And he writes in that introduction, he said, we thought that Islam, those people who will believe in Islam, they will live like Amish communities away from the contemporary societies. And then 71 Bangladesh war was lost by Pakistan, and that further strengthened our belief that Islam cannot stay as a political force. But then suddenly the 73 Arab-Israeli war, in which Israel was about to be finished, that happened, and that made us think, and six years later, Iranian Revolution happened. So then he started calling resurgence of Islam. That word of resurgence, John Esposito, he was the student and colleague of Dr. Ismail Faruqi Rahimahullah, who actually was informally my teacher also. I did not take formal courses with him, but I was on the AMSS executive under him when he was our president. So